Howdy, my name's Yojimbo Blade. I didn't script out this part of the video. I kind of want this to be a bit more freeform. I have a rough idea of the points I want to address, but I didn't like write it down. So let's try to get this started. Here's what I like about Starlight Billy. A lot of the animations from regular Billy have carried over to Starlight Billy, but they're still, you can tell they're still kind of done from the ground up. So this is Billy's normal backdash, but Starlight Billy doesn't have two guns. He has his one pistol and he has a cannon, but he still has a similar backdash that he still twirls around like regular Billy does. I appreciate that attention to detail. He also still has the double roll. That one's probably easier. They could probably copy paste that a bit easier. What I like on a technical level is that not Starlight Billy, A-Rank Billy is known for having the easiest dodge perfect assist, which is what the game is their version of a dodge counter. Sorry, it's a counter assist, that's it. It's a dodge counter and a perfect assist, which could be defensive assist or evasive assist. A-Rank Billy does that really easily, as I'll show right now, if he will actually do the move to let me show it. So what I just did there was switch it off of Billy and use my other character's assist at the same time while doing a dodge counter because of how Billy's rolling shots work. That's pretty cool. Other agents can do it, it's just a lot harder to time it. A-Rank Billy can do that very easily. Let's try that one more time, pretty please. I can do the same thing with Starlight Billy. You have to get the dodge timing for his special. Doing that dash there, that slide, if you time that at the right time, he will go into his motorcycle dodge counter, and then he'll automatically follow up with his EX cool wheelie. That's kind of neat. I appreciate that kind of attention to detail. So the cool thing about Starlight Billy, what I appreciate is that because a lot of his animations can be extensive, you are perfectly fine swapping to another character and doing anything else. Yixuan doesn't have that. Like if you switch off of Yixuan doing things, she stops. She just immediately stops. Unless you do like something like this, where you get the startup and then you just immediately cancel it. What Billy does is because he has extended animations, you can afford to do stuff like this. So normally the time you would take of staying on Billy doing his hold basic, you can just switch to another character and keep hitting them. I think that's cool. It also allows you to use your supports who normally don't get a chance to do anything. Because usually when you're playing a character like Yixuan, you pretty much are never switching off of her unless you are using like dial-ins, EXs to stun faster or to get her debuff applied, right? Like there is no reason you're ever switching off of Yixuan because Yixuan is your DPS, and switching off is always a DPS loss. But for Billy, because his animations take so long, you can afford to switch off and go right back into him.
Been a while, Sons of Caledon.
So I appreciate that gameplay loop. How do I phrase this? Because of how Billy's counter works, there are times when you're going to want to counter with your special, because that gets you the most determination. Because his special costs health to use, you have to ask yourself, am I in a position, one, where I have enough health? Two, if I use this move, do I have a way to get my health back? Granted, Billy does have a lot of ways to get his health back, but you can't just spam, I'm gonna pick on Yixuan for a moment. You can't just spam this like you can with Yixuan or Monato. Monato can spam his counter. Yixuan can spam her counter as long as she has adrenaline. And getting adrenaline on this character is easy because half of her kit just says, here's a ton of adrenaline. Starlight Billy, though, he wants to use his counter, but doing his counter, spamming his counter is actually bad. Because there will be times when you accidentally spam it, like this. That's not it. I have to stop pressing special. If I try to press special now, nothing's going to come out. And so in a fight, if you're like, oh, I'm going to spam my specials back to back to back, and you don't do any HP recovering in between, you are in trouble. Like, you can't just turn off your brain and play this character. You have to actively manage your HP. And I think that's kind of interesting. A character like Monato doesn't actually have to, as long as his HP is above 0, he can spend his HP until the cows go home. Like, he's perfectly fine just countering everything, as long as he's not in his basic. That is the other cool thing. How Starlight Billy plays reminds me of the clunkiness of Monato that I appreciate. Because of how Monato's kit works, Monato is not like the other Rupture agents because he's actually weak. They made it so he's really bad with Yunquei Tails, and they made it so he's not really good at countering things naturally. What I mean is, when Monato does a basic, his special will not cancel it. Monato has no way to cancel any of his moves into his special. He has to input a dodge and then press his special. So you have to do something like that. So it looks something like this. If you're just doing this, that's what it will look like. Because of that, because Monato can't afford to just spam his basics if he wants his counters, you as a player have to like take note of, is the enemy using a multi-head attack that I can use my counter on? If so, am I willing to dodge to cancel my basics and try to fish for my special? Am I willing to continue using my basic 3 into basic 4 just because my basic 3 is invincible and my basic 4 has extended animations and I can switch to another character instead? I like that kind of flowchart aspect of Monato, where you have to understand what the enemy is doing, have enough game knowledge to understand, hey, can I actually get my special off? Like, if I'm doing my basics, should I stop what I'm doing and counter? Or do I know it's not a multi-head attack, so it won't hit him? You have to have that kind of knowledge when you're using Monato. Now, granted, those are all flaws because the other Rupture agents don't have to worry about that. Starlight Billy has a similar gameplay loop. If you counter things with your special, you get more determination and you go into a cool wheelie. If you use your bike mode dodge counter instead, that wasn't it. Whoops. I think it's slightly less determination, but it's more damage, and because it follows into it automatically, you can switch to another character. And so that's up to you as the player to recognize where I can do Billy's move while also switching to another character, like a support, maybe like Dial In, to maybe throw in a couple Dial In EXs. I think that's kind of cool. I like that. Because Billy has such extended animations, and because you want to make sure you don't run out of health to use his special, you kind of are incentivized to do other moves that you normally wouldn't want to do. You can do this sort of loop if you want, but sometimes, like, the enemy attacks too soon after your basic 4. Or, sorry, they attack too soon, so you don't have time to get into your basic 4. And getting to your basic 4 means your special will cost less HP. And so it's like, do you ask yourself, do I have enough health to use my special right now, or am I willing to wait to fish for another opportunity? Like, maybe use my dodge count. Well, I can't use my dodge counter after basic 3. Do I have time to do something like that instead? Now, many times you probably won't ever have to worry about that. But I think it's neat that you have the opportunity to think about that and optimize that. I appreciate that. Those are things I like about Starlight Billy. And I think he's cool, obviously. I think his motorcycle is cool. I think it's a bit overused. As in, like, his entire game, most of his gameplay loop is just, here are all the ways I can use my motorcycle. And I think that's cool, but I wish he would use his guns, like, use his guns a bit more with his motorcycle. Because right now, this is just here, I slam my motorcycle. This is, I do a flip on my motorcycle. This is, I drive around on my motorcycle, right? Like, I think that's fine. I just don't think it's as interesting as, that's more of a personal thing. I just don't think it's as cool as, I don't think his motorcycle is as cool as he is. Oh, he stopped. Why did he stop? About to say, like, what's caused him to stop? He was enabled. Whatever, we can turn that off. That's not really a complaint. That's more like a personal taste thing. The other thing is that I will still have this complaint. Billy's additional is non-existent. The reason it's non-existent is because when anyone in your squad is stunned, defense, or support, so that's any halfway decent team, which means this is pretty much always active. which means it's not additional, it's just part of the kit. Why did you waste your time putting this additional here? Just make it part of his kit. Now I get it, I get that it's to help players who are just starting out be like, how do I build a team with Billy? Use anybody, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's fine, that's fair. The other thing I want to point out that I think is a shame because it's more of the same is Billy gives himself, I'll say infinite crit damage. If you have a team with not Yunquake Tails, that's what I have. King of the Summit. If you have King of the Summit active and you have his additional active, this crit damage, which doesn't look that high, goes up to 280%. And I can show that math really quickly over here. We go from 160 to 280, right? That's just how much crit damage we end up getting. Look at that crit damage, 280%. Now, you would think that, oh, because he gives himself so much crit damage, then that must mean that you would want to give him more HP percent. You would think that. That's not true. Because if I do this, I'm going to turn off pan real quick. If I do this, these are his substats. These are to match my build exactly. I just combined all the relevant substats into one thing. I'm just adding it up to make it easier to show people when I do this. And I go to calculate the substat value. Because again, we should still be having this much crit damage and this much sheer force. And if we look over here, one more substat of crit damage is a 1.25% increase, and one substat of HP percent is only 1.08. So despite the fact that he gives himself infinite crit damage, he still wants more crit damage because Rupture Agents are not HP scalers. They are crit scalers. And it's worse when you put in Pan, because what Pan does is when he's at Mindscape 6, he gives you 720 sheer force. And what that basically does is 10 HP increases sheer force by 1. So if we look at this, Pan giving you 720 sheer force is equivalent to 7,200 HP. So if we do this now with Pan's sheer force buff, look at this number drop. Oh my gosh, that is abysmal. And again, this is with Pan. This is not Lucia. This is with Pan. In my HP, I only have like a +2 in HP percent, which is actually, it's 3 substats, so it's +2. It's 1 + 2, you know, that's how that works. So again, Billy doesn't, how do I say this? Rupture is a really frustrating class because people think the game wants you to think they're HP scalers, but they aren't, and they never have been. They've never cared about their HP as a total stat value. All they care about is crit damage, and that's just less interesting. Like, actively building HP on Billy means you are dealing less damage. You just need to go all in on crit. In fact, we can try to make this even worse. If we put Lucia on here, how does that change things? If we have this dumb team, and I'll change this Tux to Fury to, I'll give him Jow's. Jow's W engine increases your combat HP, which is actually pretty good. And we'll give Lucia's W engine to her, Dreamlight Hearth. Make that Mindscape 0. We don't have a Mindscape 6 Lucia. And we can make this Mindscape 0. I mean, the Mindscape doesn't change the damage calcs over here. Look at how much crit damage we're getting. Look at that. This is an insane amount of crit damage. We should not have this King of the Summit active though. So we will have slightly less. And this is just it's a damage buff to the team. That doesn't change these numbers over here. We'll just make this +30, why not? I just want to get her above to the maximum HP threshold. Now, I do expect crit damage to decrease, but I expect HP percent to also drop. Okay, so this is the final number still. Okay, so it doesn't drop as much as I thought it would. Look at how much crit damage I'm getting. Like, this is insane. 310% crit damage. And the game says, actually, no, you should still get more crit damage. HP doesn't matter. Like, what the heck? This is stupid. Obviously, you hope to have other forms of like stat buffs, but in terms of like builds that like farming for drive discs, you should only care about crit. HP is nice if you have it, but like it doesn't make a difference unless you don't have if you don't have his W engine, it does make a difference, or you don't have a sheer force buffer on the team. Because I'm kind of cheating by having both of these guys on the team right now. And also, Lucia also increases your crit damage anyway. So she's double dipping in that. Anyway, this is just to show that I am still frustrated that the Rupture class is not HP scalers. They're just crit scalers. And that's just much less interesting than real HP scalers. And the other funny thing is, looking at these results real quick. If you've seen Pridewind's site, you've probably seen this. This is Cauldron of Clarity. This is the event W engine that most people can probably get if they were playing at that time, but it's not available anymore. Here is Gorilla Wisp. The issue with Gorilla Wisp is that Gorilla Wisp has a a buff that you need to time. Its crit damage or crit rate only lasts for 5 seconds after you drain your HP. Billy in stun doesn't really want to do that. So if it's up for 50% of the time, or that's not 50, that's 80%. If that buff is active 50% of the time, it is slightly better than Steel Cushion. Like, what the heck? The Rupture W engine is slightly better than Steel Cushion? Yes. Because again, all Steel Cushion is giving is, here's a giant ball of stats. That's it. It's a stat stick. And yet it is competitive with Gorilla Wisp. And obviously Cauldron of Clarity is still better. But it's like, man, this is just, and I called this, I predicted this. I didn't have the exact math behind it, but from the math I did with the other Rupture agents, it's like, yeah, Steel Cushion is just good. Just use it if you have it. If they're going to give it out in 3.1 for free, just slap it on Starlight Billy. It's fine. No, that's it. It's not really a complaint about Starlight Billy. It's a complaint about the design philosophy of the game. I think how I would say it is they're trying to convince players that, like, in theory, these are counter DPSs who use their HP as like a give and take, where you spend their HP in interesting ways, and then you use that as resources to deal damage. I think they execute that really well with Monato and Starlight Billy and Yidhari. And then there's Banyue and Yixuan, who don't really care about having high HP. Banyue can spend his HP before a fight starts, but like after that, he doesn't care about his HP. Yixuan's ultimate can restore people's HP, but she doesn't care about her HP. She doesn't use it for anything. And so one issue I would say with Starlight Billy is that it's not an issue about his gameplay specifically. Starlight Billy is an interesting agent, but he is not an interesting Rupture agent. We can talk about the other male DPSs the game has made. When the game launched in 1.0, Ellen was the first character that came out. The end of season 1, we got Hugo. Hugo is not the male version of Ellen. Hugo is a unique attack agent who does things differently from other attackers. Let's talk about Harumasa. Harumasa released alongside the Void Hunter, so his sales were weaker than Miyabi's. But Harumasa is an attack agent who does stuff very differently from other attack agents. He wants to be in anomaly teams, surprisingly. No one else does. No other attacker that, except for maybe Anton. We give Anton credit for that. Harumasa kind of wants to be in anomaly teams. Hugo wants to be in double stun teams. That's very interesting. No other character really wanted that. Let's look at Banyue. Banyue is like, oh, I'm a Rupture agent, but I have these really specific combos that I want to do, and you're going to have to grind for them. It's like, oh, you're not just Monato where I can just mash buttons and do whatever I want. There's a specific thing that I'm supposed to do with this character, and that's rewarded. That's awesome. That's neat. He's not like Yidhari. He's not like Monato. He really has his own unique gameplay loop. The issue with Starlight Billy is that Starlight Billy feels like a kit bash of all the Rupture agents combined into one. And because of that, he feels good to use, but he doesn't feel unique at doing anything. Like when you're using Starlight Billy, because I don't have Yidhari, but I have played enough of her in the Hollow Zero. Starlight Billy feels like a kit bash of, here's what Yidhari wants to do, and here's what Monato wants to do. Let's just combine that into one agent and make that Starlight Billy's gameplay loop. It's like, okay, Monato is an interesting agent. I enjoy playing him. Yidhari is an interesting agent, even though I don't have her. I enjoy playing her, even though it's like she has a very simple gameplay loop. I still think it is enjoyable for the context of what it is. And Starlight Billy's like, yeah, he has that gameplay loop, but I'm already like, if you already have Yidhari, you're already kind of doing what Starlight Billy does. Despite the bike is cool, but like the bike doesn't change what you're doing with the character. You're a counter DPS still. Again, that's not a problem with the gameplay specifically. That's a problem with like the design of the character, if you will. The other issue I will say, again, this is not about Starlight Billy's gameplay. I need to make that very clear. This is not about gameplay. This is about more of a meta discussion. One of the very clear and obvious issues with Starlight Billy that has nothing to do with his gameplay. It's about like the game as a whole. Because the Rupture class is just crit scalers, but different. Actually, no, they're not even different. Because the Rupture class is just crit scalers, and they don't really do anything super unique from each other, except for Banyue. Banyue is the one standout because he actually has a very different gameplay loop from how Yixuan and Monato and Yidhari want to play. And because Billy doesn't, as a player who is playing the game, you have to ask yourself, okay, am I willing to spend, again, from a financial perspective, am I willing to spend resources to get a character who I'm going to put in the same fights as I would Yixuan? Like, the fights I would use Starlight Billy in are also the fights you can just use Yixuan in. And it's like, well, I already have Yixuan, and the game's not telling me to make 2 Rupture teams. Why do I need Starlight Billy? Again, that's not like you should need a character. You should want a character. I'm just saying that because they didn't differentiate him enough, there's not a real scenario where you're going, oh man, you know, I really wish I didn't have Yi Xuan, and instead I had Starlight Billy. So instead they have to make shield buffs for the next 3 patches. And that's kind of annoying. I mean, that's just what I know the game does that. They're just going to do that till forever now. But that is how the game is going to balance itself. It's tedious and it's annoying. We just have to deal with it. And the other issue, obviously, is because, wait a second.
I'll give you a hand.
Yeshong Guang, the game basically screamed at you. Like, if you played the story and if you watched the 2.5 live stream, the game is basically screaming at you, pull for Yeshong Guang. The marketing was screaming at the top of its lungs to pull this character. And so you pull this character, and now you have to ask yourself, wait, I already have Yeshong Guang. And all of the fights that I would want to use Starlight Billy in are the fights I'm already using Yeshong Guang in. Why would I pull for Starlight Billy to do the exact same thing that Yeshong Guang is already doing? That's a problem. That's a problem in game design, and their marketing. Yidhari had a similar issue on release, where the game was like trying to convince you, hey, do you want to pull for this character? And the answer was for most players was, well, where'd she go? Where did she go? I already have Yi Xuan because the game screamed at me to pull for her. So I already have a Rupture agent. You gave us Monto for free, so I already have that. And I also already have an Ice DPS. I have Miyabi because, again, you yelled at us to pull for her when she was coming out. And I also have Ellen or Hugo. So it's like, unless the end game is asking for triple Ice DPSs, what am I using Yidhari for? Now, that being said, because I'm going to give something in Yidhari's favor, because Yidhari is an Ice agent, she actually has a lot more viable team options than other characters. Because she shares the same element with Lycon, Lycon can inflict his ice resistance on enemies, and Yidhari will benefit from that. Because she's the only Ice Rupture agent, she's the only one who benefits in that specific way. And then there is Sokaku. Sokaku is obviously not a Rupture support specifically, but hey, her 1,000 attack that she gives from this roughly equates to like 300 sheer force, I think, off the top of my head. And then here are a couple damage buffs here, and then her Mindscapes also reduce enemy ice resistance again. So because of Yidhari's element, Yidhari actually has really cool and interesting team options. There's also, if you build the team specifically, you can also get Lighter active. You can do Yidhari, Lighter, Lucy. That's also possible. So Yidhari has a lot more interesting and engaging team building options.
You want to become a hero too?
Starlight Billy doesn't have that. Starlight Billy's team is the exact same team you've been using since 2.4 for the past like 6 months. It's Dialyn, Lucia. You want to choose something different? Well, too bad. We don't have that. Because we don't have any niche elemental characters, Starlight Billy can't really choose. I mean, you can try Pan and Pulchra. Like, I'm not trying to say Billy has no teams. That's stupid. Billy has a lot of teams he can use. But just because you can use them doesn't mean they're good. If you watch my video today, I did Nicole Amby with Starlight Billy. That team is awful. These two are not doing anything. She's giving more crit rate, so that's about it. Crit rate and the King of the Summit. That's it. Here's crit rate and crit damage. Fantastic. Just imagine this. Imagine if Lycon were a physical agent. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a second. This opens up some different team options. Instead of relying on Dialyn for everything, I can choose to use Lycon and get his physical damage reduction on enemies. Not reduction, but resistance. This is also updated from ice damage resistance. Since 1.0, this had said ice damage resistance, and then they changed it to just remove the damage part. But again, because there are no unique physical specific buffers like Lighter or Lycon, Billy doesn't have those team building options.
You want to become a hero too?
So when you're like, oh, what is the best team for Starlight Billy? It's Dialyn, Lucia. The exact same team you're using with Banyue, the exact same team you're using with Monato, the exact same team you're using with Yi Xuan. Not only does Starlight Billy not do anything unique from other Rupture agents, not only does he not do anything unique from characters you don't already have, his teams are not unique either. So like, what is the point of pulling this character? Now the point is because you like the character and because you enjoy playing the game. That's the point. And I hope Season 3 resolves this. I hope Season 3 gives us a reason to actually diversify teams in an interesting and engaging way that isn't just, oh, well, if I don't have Dialyn, I guess I can use Lycon. It's like, yeah, of course you can do that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, That's what you recommend if you don't have other options, right? Like Lycon's fine, Lycon's good, but like you're not looking at the best Billy team and saying, oh yeah, you know what? Lycon is the optimal teammate for Starlight Billy. You're never saying that. Now, Lycon is interesting with Starlight Billy because of how his hold basic works and how Lycon will continue attacking enemies when they're both on field together. They're cool. I will admit, they are cool together. I actually might play that team. I haven't played it yet. I've seen other people play it, and I think it looks cool. But that's not a team that the game's going to recommend and say, oh, you should play this team. This is a it's a synergistic team. It's not. It's not synergistic. Because unfortunately, this says ice resistance down. Now, Green, you're getting the damage buff, which is nice. And that's assuming you can activate his additional for the stun damage buff. Attribute or faction, like what? You're gonna play Rena in this team? You could. Starlight Billy loves that pen ratio, I'll tell you what. You could play Starlight Billy Lycon Sokaku. Like, yeah, you can do that. It's just like, man, you wish those characters were physical instead. Oh, that's right. Because of how this works, you can just hold basic and Lycon will continue attacking. That's really cool. That's interesting. And so that's the thing. I'm blaming the game for making... I'm going to put this on Dial-In. I'm going to blame Dial-In for this. I think Dial-In's boring. Dial-In homogenizes so many teams to the point where there's nothing interesting to do. It's like, what's the best team? Dial-In support. Like, what's this character's best team? Dial-In support. What's this agent's best? Dial-In support. That's it. That's it. Unless you're an anomaly agent. Your best partner is probably Dial-In, and there's nothing else you can do about it because Lighter is a good character, but they've never made another character like Lighter, and Lighter was really strong when he released in his niche. And then they just said, hey, what if we gave every team Lighter? It's like, well, what the heck? Now there's no interesting teams to build. So I want to make a brand new and interesting Harumasa team. And if you've seen R2 basically came out and said like, hey, I stopped enjoying the game because I realized that I was using Dial-In was homogenizing my gameplay to the point where I stopped enjoying the game. Like, oh my gosh, that's insane. I'm not saying Dial-In's a bad character, right? I think Dial-In is a great character in terms of how I like balancing her resource bar. I enjoy that aspect of like, ooh, should I use my point now? Should I use these points here? I like that loop. I wish Dial-In was not as overpowered as she is, to the point where outside of very specific teams that include Lighter and or Lycon, there's no reason to use pretty much any other stunner, except for maybe Trigger. Trigger's the one exception for Aftershock teams, maybe. And it's not that Trigger is bad, it's just that Dial-In is doing the same days and also doing absurd damage. If the squad member is an attack agent, her EXs deal additional damage equal to 320% of that agent's attack. None of this was gameplay related. It's like the meta of Zenless as a whole. It's like he has no unique teams that are interesting and good. He doesn't differentiate himself enough from other Rupture agents or from the Void Hunter of 2.5. All the fights you would want to use him in, you would use her in anyway, so who cares? You're not creating new teams. You're just replacing the character you were already using with a new character you want to use, which is fine. That's not a problem in itself. It's just when you have limited pools, that's something you want to consider. Oh, I think it's on the topic of sales. I think people will bust out the sales charts for Billy's, be like, oh, look at how he's underselling. And I don't disagree that I think Starlight Billy is underselling relative to like Ellen. I also think that at the same time, it's because of the patch he is in and the context of his release. So again, Starlight Billy is a second half agent. Most second half agents have weaker sales. They just do. But at the start of 2.6, if you knew in your heart of hearts that, oh, from what I'm seeing, they are going to release an S rank Billy, you could have just saved your pulls from 2.6 and then you pull for Starlight Billy in 2.8. Sales don't track that. They only track when you are spending money, not who you're spending your money on. And so I think part of that is when Yesheng Guang came out, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Yesheng Guang, she got so much money. And it's like, hold on a second. In 2.5, the game was begging players to just spend money in general. And that's why it seemed like Arya didn't have as many sales. It's because the people who are going to spend money on Arya spent it in 2.5 because that's when the game was yelling at them to spend money. And so there is that aspect of like, oh, the game's not, he's not selling. It's like, well, that is true. He's probably not getting as much brand new sales, but that's also because people knew he was going to come out. It was very obvious from like 1.6 that an S rank version of Billy was going to come out. And I have a joke account that I made that was only to pull for Starlight Billy. And I was able to do that without spending any money. I think Jason made a really good video about this as well. Because Starlight Billy came out in 2.8 and not something like 2.1, there are just fewer players playing the game right now. There just are. Like, overall, there are fewer players actively playing the game. You just don't have the same amount of players from 2.5, from 2.0. You just don't have that player base right now. Another reason, this might be another reason why he's not selling as well, but I think it's complicated. If you go to Hollow Zero, you can play as any agent released in Season 2 except for Oboe Squad because they didn't put them in the shop for some reason. They didn't put them as like the trial versions. So if you are just a player who's like, I want to try out Starlight Billy, here he is. You can just use him here. You don't have to pull for him. Now, I think that is very consumer friendly. I really like that. On the other hand, if a player just, in Season 1, if you really wanted to play Ellen, you basically just had to keep replaying the story mode that she was in, or you have to pull for her. Maybe not Season 1, up until like 1.4, because that's when they brought out the Hollow Zero stuff. But now, for most characters that come out, they're just in here. So like, if I really want to play Promia, I can just play her and not spend any money. I think that's very consumer friendly, and there's sometimes like, hey, because I enjoyed playing this character in this mode, I want to play them outside this mode. And I think that's great. I love this. But it also means that there are some players who are like, oh, I just wanted to try him out. I don't really need him on my account. I think there are those players who are also just not going to pull for him for that reason. And I think that's fine. I think that's fair. I think people should play what they enjoy playing and spend their pulls wisely. MiHoYo is a private company. They're never going to release their sale data unless someone breaks in or they just want to brag in an interview. We don't know the true value of how much like Starlight Billy's revenue is generating. We do know it's generating interest from like his demo has a lot of views. Not his demo, his EP, his song. His song has a lot of views, and that's cool because he's a fan service agent. So it's like, it makes sense that his stuff would perform well in that category. So to summarize, I like a lot of aspects of Starlight Billy's gameplay. Part of me wishes he used his motorcycle a little less and his guns a bit more. That's more of a personal taste. That's not like a flaw in the gameplay loop. I really enjoy a lot of the unique skill-based aspects of his gameplay. I like his move. I didn't mention this. I like his fluid mobility. I think he moves around very well, like his A rank form, and I really enjoy that. If Starlight Billy felt really stiff, that would be a major issue. He feels a little bit stiffer just because he can't drift on his bike as well as I think he should be able to, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, cool gameplay moments. He's cool. He's really cool. I'll put him on screen. This is regular Billy. He's cool, but the problem is he has no unique and interesting teams. He has no unique and interest. He does not differentiate himself from other Rupture agents enough to stand out. And he doesn't differentiate himself enough from other physical agents to stand out. There's no content being made to make him stand out. The only thing that's being made is shield buffs. It's show buffs. And that's okay, but those buffs are gonna go away. So it's like, man, it's a hard sell because Season 3 is on the horizon. The live stream is confirmed for this. Players are probably just going to save their pulls until Season 3, and that's when we'll get a bigger influx of new players. And it's like, if new players are joining right now, it's like, are you going to tell new players to pull for Starlight Billy? It's not a bad idea, but if Yeshurong is rerunning very early in Season 3, that becomes a much harder sell. Now, I have a specific viewpoint on that I will release when they actually confirm it. Now, the one thing I will say that because his additional is so generic, and because he is so independent from other agents, you can just throw any team together, and Starlight Billy is still doing pretty much everything he wants to do, except for maybe the stun window. He really likes an extended stun duration, but if he doesn't have it, he just kind of has to change what he does, and that's fine. But yeah, those are my thoughts overall. His gameplay is awesome and great. I really enjoy playing him. There are other things around him that just make him not as interesting as he could be. It's not to say I dislike him, because again, if you hear nothing from me, I like Starlight Billy. I like playing him. I don't like that how the game is telling me to play him is how they've been telling me to play every Rupture team since 2.4. I like how half of this conversation of here's what I dislike about Starlight Billy is here's what I dislike about Rupture agents. It just became a, here's what's wrong about the Rupture class. They're not HP scalers. They just aren't. It also seems, this is not an issue, I'm just saying this. It does seem odd that Starlight Billy is the one whose gameplay revolves around a motorcycle, when the actual faction who's supposed to have a ton of motorcycles don't. Like, Billy, a character we've never really seen on a motorcycle. He's talked about being on a motorcycle, but it hasn't been shown to us in any real form of media. He's the one who gets a motorcycle, but none of the Sons of Caledon do. Despite the fact that they all have motorcycles, we all see them actively using. Now, a lot of the issues I'm talking about will be fixed when Norma comes out. They will be fixed when we get another Sheer Force agent, Sheer Force support. It's like, oh my gosh, now we can actually make good team varieties with our Rupture agents. We don't have to just use Dial and Lucia. We can use Norma, insert other agents, right? We can use Norma, Lucia. We can use Dial-In, insert other agents, you know? Like, those will be fun. All right, that's all I have for the criticisms, the discussions, the reviews, what I enjoy about Starlight Billy. Yeah, that's all I got. Subscribe if you feel like it. You don't have to, but it's nice. Recommend this video. If you think it's good, recommend it to someone. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it and get your name out there, you can always become a sponsor of the channel. I'm very grateful for the sponsors that I have. But please don't give what you don't have. Shoutouts to my super sponsors. I Love My PC, Jam Jalopy, Superbro64, and Tactile-like. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, that's about it. My name's Yojimbo Blade, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. See you soon.